Folks been telling ghost stories about the Mississippi River for over 150 years. Tales of drowned gamblers, lost boats, and voices that ride the fog when the moon's hanging low. A lot of them are just stories, but this is mine, and I can promise you it ain't no ball of yarn. Now, I only ever set foot on the Dixie Rose a couple of times back when I was working with that road band in that club down in Vicksburg. But what I heard from her captain and what I seen with my own eyes had been sitting heavy on me ever since. Some say the river don't like to give up her dead, but every now and then, with the right enticement, she can be persuaded. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Papa's Porch. Drag up a chair and rest easy. Tonight, we ain't sitting by no fire. We're heading down to Mississippi, where the river runs wide and the fog lays thick on the water. This here is the story of the Dixie Rose. Now, most folks will tell you the age of the riverboats is long gone. Paddle wheels broke down and rusted out. Casino laws shut down the rest. And them old queens of the river left to rot on the muddy banks of the Mississippi. But the Dixie Rose, oh, she's different. She was one of the last of her kind, stripped down to her bones, then built back up stem to stern. Grand chandeliers shining over velvet carpets, brass railings polished till you could see yourself in them, poker tables ready for the high rollers. A floating palace, part history, part casino, and her captain, my friend Aaron, a riverboat man through and through, salt of the earth, the kind of steady hand you'd trust in a storm. But no matter how fine she looked, the Dixie Rose carried a shadow. Folks whispered that not every passenger paid for their ticket, that sometimes late at night the paddle wheel creaked like it was grinding bones, and chips clattered on tables with no dealers sitting behind them. Now, Aaron didn't pay that no mind, not at first. He'd laugh, tip his cap, and say, "Rivers are full of stories, Zeb. Don't mean they're all true." But he'd learn soon enough. Now, before I get too far, let me tell you how I met Aaron, captain of the Dixie Rose. It was the third week of August, 1984. I was playing bass guitar with a road band out of Chattanooga. Now, we had us a steady gig at this little joint down in Vicksburg. A little restaurant lounge that turned honky-tonk once the sun went down. Now, one night this fella come in and sat at the bar. Now, he stayed there all night long. Didn't dance, didn't cut up, just listened. And he wasn't drinking heavy neither. He nursed that one Jack and Coke till the ice melted clean away, and left the brown water swirling in the glass. Now, I've always been the type to wander up to the bar on break, grab my own Jack and Coke, and pass the time. So I slid up beside him and struck up a conversation. He told me his name was Aaron, said he was captain of the Dixie Rose, a floating casino tied up just a few blocks downriver. They run into some trouble on their shakedown cruise, nothing serious, just a few bugs that needed ironing out. So they were laying over in Vicksburg to get her squared away. Now, we talked a while, and I'll tell you what, When the last note of our set faded out, that man was still sitting there. The restaurant side of the place stayed open all night on weekends, so we decided to grab us some early breakfast before he headed back to his boat. It was over bacon and eggs sometime around 3 in the morning when Aaron leaned across the table and said, real quiet like, "The Dixie Rose is haunted." Then he just went back to his coffee like nothing happened. Didn't give no details, didn't tell me why, just dropped it in my lap and left it hanging there. We sat there till nearly 6 o'clock that morning, talking about everything but the haunting. I didn't push. I figured he'd eventually get around to filling me in, but he didn't that night. He left with a handshake and nary another word about a haunted boat. Honestly, I didn't figure I'd ever see him again. I just filed that experience away with like another one of the hundreds of chance meetings on the road that never come around again. But he kept coming back. Anytime the Rose tied up at Vicksburg, you could bet Aaron would wander into that club, settle at the same stool, and nurse that same Jack and Coke. Over time, we got to be friendly. I even boarded the Rose a couple of times myself when I had a night off and she was tied up at the dock. Oh Lord, she was something to see now. Crystal chandeliers, velvet carpets, brass polished till you could near about shave in it. Every time I saw Aaron, I'd ask him casual like, "So, how's the ghost situation coming along?" He'd grin, shake his head, and say, "Still playing games with me, Zell, still playing games." A few months later, he brought his wife along, Destiny, a sweet lady, sharp as a tack, and with a smile that could light up a whole dance floor. That trip lined up with another tie-up at Vicksburg, and sure enough, they both come down to catch her show. After I finished my set, we all wound up at a little after-hours joint down the road. That was the night we stopped being acquaintances and started being friends, real friends. And it was only after that, 5, maybe 6 visits later, that Aaron finally leaned in one night, dropped his voice real low and said, "Zell, I figured it out. I solved the ghost problem." Now, when a riverboat captain tells you he solved a ghost problem, you best lean in close, 'cause you're about to hear something worth remembering. And that's when Aaron shared the story of the gambler and his cursed hand of cards, the tale that haunts the Dixie Rose to this very day. Now, riverboats been called a lot of things: floating palaces, dens of sin, the very lifeblood of the Mississippi. But Aaron told me the Rose was something else altogether. She was beautiful, no doubt. Chandeliers shining, brass railings polished, poker tables dressed in green felt like new spring grass. But beneath all that glamour, she carried a shadow. Aaron said the whispers went back to her earliest nights, when she was still young and full of laughter. There'd been a gambler aboard, thicker than river oil, always winning, always drawing aces like the cards themselves were just scared not to fall into his hand. One night he laid down 4 gleaming aces, smiling like the Mississippi was his own front porch. But across the table sat a stranger, calm, cold, and carrying a different kind of hand. And that stranger leaned back and laid down his own pair of 6s. And quicker than a thunderclap, 4 aces lost to a pair of Colt 45s. They pitched that gambler's body over the rail before sunrise. But his spirit, well, his spirit never left the Dixie Rose. Aaron said the signs come mostly at night. Poker chips sliding across empty tables. A hand of cards laying face up where no dealer had set them. Guests complaining of a cold draft on the back of their necks, even in the heat of July. And more than once he swore he heard it himself, a low chuckle right over his shoulder, just as the wheelhouse clock struck midnight. Most folks would have lit out right then and there, but Aaron, no, he wasn't a running type. One night after the boat tied up and the last of the guests were asleep, he climbed the stairs to the casino deck. The place was dark as a cave, the air heavy with old smoke, but in the glow of a single lamp he saw it. 4 aces laying neat across the felt. And across from that hand in the empty chair, a shadow, waiting. Aaron stepped closer. The air was heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. He eased down in the chair opposite them cards. The lamp flickered. A man took shape in that empty seat, dressed fine as Sunday, with his eyes cold as a grave. He tipped his hat slow like, gave Aaron a grin that never reached his eyes. Then with a flick of his wrist, he slid the deck across. Cut the cards, he said. Aaron didn't flinch. He cut the deck, dealt the hands, and they played. Round after round, chips sliding, cards falling. Every time the ghost turned up aces, 4 of them gleaming like teeth. But Aaron wasn't playing to win. He was playing to end it. On the last hand, he laid his cards down gentle. Just a pair of 6s. Plain, honest. Nothing more. That gambler froze. His grin faltered. For the first time in 100 years, them aces didn't look so certain. Aaron leaned forward, voice steady as the river itself. Sometimes, friend, a pair of 6s beats all the aces in the world. The room went ice cold. The ghost's hat slipped from his head as his form began to scatter, drifting away like smoke on the water. His cards fell to the table. When Aaron looked down, there wasn't aces anymore, just scraps of yellowed paper, brittle with age. The gambler let out a long sigh. Not a moan, not a scream, just a man finally setting down his burden. And then with a whispered, "Thank you," he was gone. You see, some burdens last longer than a lifetime. But sometimes all it takes is one steady soul sitting across the table to finally set things right. From that night on, the Dixie Rose was quiet. No more clattering chips at midnight. No more cold laughs in the dark. Just that old paddle wheel beating steady and that river rolling on underneath. This has been a story from Papa's Porch. I really appreciate y'all stopping by. Hey, come on back and see me again, won't you? Next time, I want to tell you about the best party of the year, also known as the Curse of Burnt Red Road.